Yes, you can start.
Well, good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about databases. We are going to talk about a lot of things concerning databases. My name is dogbe Silvanus. I'm a lecturer at the University of Greenwich, UK, and I'm going to take you through some of the things that needs to be known about databases. Introduction to databases. Okay, so these are the topics in the presentation. We are going to look at introduction to databases. We are going to look at database concepts. Now, we will look at examples of database management systems in use. We'll look at functions of databases, and we'll look at list of topics in the model when you are taking databases, and then the importance of database management systems, and then we'll conclude everything. These are the things we will be doing in this presentation. Now, so database is a well-structured, logically related data. For example, a card indices, telephone directories. Those are some of the examples of databases. Okay, so there's a difference between a database and an electronic database. Now, I mentioned some of those things that are in the database. For example, when we are talking a database, I'm sure most of us have seen those cabinets, metal cabinets, where files are kept. Now, those files contain records, and the collection of records make a database. It can be manual or it can be electronic. So there are two types. Now, we have electronic database, which is a computerized form of record keeping. Remember, I said collection of records make a database. So when it is computerized, it then becomes an electronic database. Very well. So a database, a collection of databases can be put in a database management system or software. So a database management system or software is used for storing and retrieving databases by users, and this takes care of security measures as well, because once you have records which translates to databases, they must be kept in a secure environment. So database management systems comes with its own security measures. Okay, now let's look at the functions of a database. Why do we use a database? Now, cast your mind back again to the manual database management system. We use it to store information. Now we pick that information, we manipulate the information, and then we can retrieve the information that is stored, the data that is stored. Now when you retrieve a stored data and you have manipulated it, it then becomes useful information. So these are the functions of a database. Number one, to store, you manipulate, and then you retrieve the data, which is useful information. Now, I said databases are stored in database management systems. Now, when you look at the screen, you see that there's a list of some of the database management systems, the popular ones in use. The popular ones in use consist of or comprise of Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL Server, Oracle, DB2, and many more. I know of FileMaker Pro. I know of, there are several of them. MariaDB, there are several of them. Many more in use. So these are the examples of database management systems. These are the examples of database management systems. Now, let's look at where these databases are used. Number one, they are used if you go down to Accra Mall or you go to any shopping mall. There's a database management system in use, and there's a database in use. Now, they may want to know the stock or the inventory that they have. If people are buying goods, the goods are reducing, so they may want to know the number of items in stock. They may want to know the items that are being bought in which quantities, which are the fastest moving items among several others. So these are some of the examples. For example, if you are also purchasing with Visa card, they may want to know how much money you have. All these ones are stored in the database. They may want to know, or they may want to see the picture of the person purchasing. They may want to know your address. So these are things that you store in a database when you are using Visa cards or cards which are becoming popular. We have debit cards, and then we have credit cards. So all these ones work with databases. Bookings, if you are booking a transport or you want to travel and you want to book a ticket, this thing is kept in a database which comes with a reminder. If you are booking a holiday, if you are in a bank, if you enter a bank and you want to do a transaction and you are an account holder, the banks keep database. They keep a lot of information on you. Interestingly, they may even be sending you and be wishing you birthdays. When your birthdays come, they may give you complimentary messages. Some of these messages are generated automatically from a database. If you are taking out insurance, database. If you are obtaining passport. Now in Ghana, you cannot go and obtain multiple passports because they are keeping databases which are well maintained, which comes with a lot of advantages. If you are using the internet, for example, data is kept on you. There are cookies that you must accept or reject. Now, there are times you may visit a website and then you go and visit that website again. They will tell you you have visited this website 2 weeks ago. It is from a database. Now, if you are going to register and get your voter's ID, they will use a database. If you are in churches, they want to see whether you are coming to church. If you are not coming, you know it's a society. They want to find out what is happening to you. They want to encourage you, and several other things that use databases. There are several things that use databases. So these are some of the examples of use of databases. Now, the databases use applications. There's storage and retrieval of numeric and alphanumeric data. I'm talking about numbers and letters and numbers combined with letters. These are alphanumeric. For example, I already spoke about stock administration, keeping track of products in stock, storage and retrieval of multimedia. A typical example is YouTube, TikTok, popular video database for audiovisual. These are they all use databases. Databases are used to monitor data autonomously anytime an action is taken. For example, a high frequency trading constantly maintain database stock of prices processes in less than 1 hour. These are real-time processing using databases. These are real-time processing using databases. So database application is everywhere. For example, storage and retrieval of web content, Google, for example. Now, data is used in several places in shops. For example, there's something we call big data. In fact, I was privileged to use big data when we were doing we were collecting and collating real-time data on accident cases in Ghana. I have used databases in hospitals, one of the biggest and major hospitals in Ghana. They use database to keep information, up-to-date information on patients. So database is everywhere. So those are the applications that you can use for databases. Now let's look at careers that you can make when you are able to learn and manage the application of database. Number one, you can be a database administrator. You can be a database administrator, meaning that you are going to administer the privileges, permissions, among several others for users of the database. You are going to regulate the application of the DBMS, Database Management System. And there's a lot of opportunities all over the world, including even the United Nations, which post information online for people to apply every now and then. Now, you can also be a data analyst. In fact, I was a database administrator in a hospital before. I was a data analyst at National Road Safety Commission. So you can be a database analyst where you put together the information from the database to make meaning to the data that is in the database. Remember, the database has data. The data, collection of data becomes database. Collection of database is kept in a database management system. Now, you can be a database programmer, meaning that you are going to design and develop, you are going to program the database. You can also be a database designer, meaning that if you consider the universe of this course, the sum totality of discussion that go into designing the database, you will then be able to design the structure and the way the database is going to look. So there are a lot of important careers, very sensitive and important careers to be made out of a database and database administration and management. It is one of the most important areas in information technology and communication management. So that is for careers. Now let's look at opportunities. Opportunities, I have mentioned them: database administrator, data analyst, database designer, responsive and mobile. You see, there are a lot of things that you can do in terms of database management systems and databases. Okay. Now, let's look at the list of topics in the model when you want to study database management systems and databases. Remember, I spoke about data analysts, database designers, database programmers. So it comes with certain particular topics that are in the module. For example, you may be looking at introduction to databases. These are just a few. You may be looking at database and database management systems. You may be talking, I have explained the two already, but now let's look at entity relationship and entity relationship modeling, which is a representation of a real model. I'm sure you know those models that walk on the catwalk. They are not just walking. You know that they are trying to represent or present the clothing that they put on. So that is a typical example of a model. So we have entities which are representation of real life things which are modeled using the entity relationship diagrams. We have relational modeling, which is the current way database management systems are being used. Then we have the language of the database, which is what? The SQL language, or the structured query language, SQL, structured query language. Then we have the design and the structure of the database. Then we have supporting transactions that go with it. And then we implement the database, and eventually we summarize all that we have learned. These are some of the topics in the very important topics in the module. Very, very interesting topics. So additionally, in IPMC, having talked about database and database management systems, these things are going to be presented in well-structured courses which you will be taking. Lessons are in progression. You will be taught from lesson to lesson, very well structured, online presentations, and the lecture lessons are very collaborative. Lecture lessons have built-in online chat systems for both instructors and students to communicate in real time. That is what I mean. Once we are teaching you and you are online, you communicate. We have applications and systems that communicate with you. So we have one-on-one teaching when we are presenting this topic. And it is very, very interesting. Despite the fact that it's a practical course, you cannot escape the energy